When President Carter created the Federal Education Department in 1979, it was opposed by members of his own cabinet, as well as the American Federation of Teachers, the New York Times editorial board, and the famed Democrat Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. History has proven them right, absolutely right. After 45 years, the United States spends more money on education by far than any other country, and spends likewise by far more money per pupil than any country, and it's not even close. But yet we rank near the bottom of the list in terms of success.
So the United States spends more money per student than any other country by far, and ranked among the bottom by far. So usually the way it works, the more money you spend, the better something is, right? The more successful, the more beautiful, the newer, the more shinier, right? What this is indicative of is corruption in the system, meaning prices are inflated in order for people to extract supposedly more wealth. And as a result of that, the whole system is just corroding because there's no integrity. The integrity of it is falling apart. And it's plain for everyone to see. Look at the statistics.
It's an amazing stat. Those are two stats you don't want. The most money spent per pupil, and you're at the bottom of the list. And that's where we are, like it or not. And we've been there for a long time. 70% of eighth graders are not proficient in either reading or in math. 70%.
70%.
70%.
70%.
40% of fourth graders lack even basic reading skills, can't read.
Oh my God. 40% can't even read as a fourth grader. Fourth grader.
In our public elementary and middle schools score worse in reading today than when the department opened, by a lot. In Baltimore, 40% of the high schools have 0 students who can do basic mathematics.
Oh my God. Hold up. Did you just say 0? 40% in Baltimore. Now, for those of you who are a bit savvy as to what he's actually saying here, at least in my view, I could be wrong, only my opinion, but Baltimore is a chocolate city, and Democrats are supposedly the ally of blacks. Jimmy Carter supposedly looking out for you in your favor, and now you got 40% of high school students who can't even do basic algebra. Think about that.
Losing your money to a scam.
That is staggering.
Very simplest of mathematics. I said, give me your definition of basic, and they're talking about like adding a few numbers together. Despite these breathtaking.
Whoa, I said basic algebra. Hold on, I got that wrong.
Basic, and they're talking about like adding a few by a lot. In Baltimore, 40% of the high schools have 0 students who can do basic mathematics.
Hold on, oh my God. The man said basic mathematics.
Not even the very simplest of mathematics. I said, give me your definition of basic, and they're talking about like adding a few numbers together. Despite these breathtaking failures, the department's discretionary budget has exploded by 600% in a very short period of time, and it employs bureaucrats in buildings all over Washington, D.C. And as a former real estate person, I will tell you, I ride through the streets of Washington, and it says Department of Education, Department of Education. I said, how do you fill those buildings? It's crazy what's happened over the years. I'm pleased to report that after offering these federal employees 2 generous buyout options, and they were very, very generous, and they're good people, but they were very generous. My administration has initiated a reduction in force, and we're already cutting numbers that were really surprising to a lot that we were able to do it so successfully. And we've cut the number of bureaucrats in half. 50% have taken office, which is great.
Yeah, that is absolutely something to applaud. It is staggering how sick and how much of a cesspool Washington D.C. is in this whole process. And in all honesty, whether you agree with the man or not, how much longer could this thing hold up without any kind of intervention? In some cases, one could argue that it may be too late. I mean, can Baltimore come back? In all honesty, I'm being for real here. Can you come back from a 40% of your high school rate, a 40% rate of high school students can't even do basic mathematics? And I would say that those numbers are probably generous. It could be even 50. At least in some areas, it could be as high as 70, 80%. How do you come back from that? Especially with without some kind of a massive intervention of epic proportions. You're talking people going in there, psychologists, psychiatrists, economists, social scientists, um, spiritual teachers, everything. And even then, could it be saved? God only knows. But none of that is coming. So can it be saved? I see an effort here being made, and I would hope it's planting the seed from others the same.
Thank you. Under the action I'm taking today, a small handful of Democrats and others that we have employed for a long time, and there are some Republicans, but not too many, I have to be honest with you. But the department's useful functions, and such as, and they're in charge of them: Pell Grants, Title I funding, resources for children with disabilities and special needs will be preserved, fully preserved. They're all going to be so. If you look at the Pell Grants, it's supposed to be a very good program. Title I funding and resources for children with special disabilities and special needs, they're going to be preserved in full and redistributed to various other agencies and departments that will take very good care of them. And it's very important to Linda, and it's very important to all of us. But beyond these core necessities, my administration will take all lawful steps to shut down the department. We're going to shut it down and shut it down as quickly as possible. It's doing us no good. We want to return our students to the states where just some of the governors here are so happy about this. They want education to come back to them, to come back to the states, and they're going to do a phenomenal job. If you look, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, I have to tell you, I give them a lot of credit. China's top 10. And so we can't now say that bigness is making it impossible to educate, because China is very big. But you have countries that do a very good job in education. And I really believe, like some of the governors here today from states that run very, very well, including a big state like Texas, but states that run very well are going to have education that will be as good as Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and those top, Finland, those top countries that do so well with education. I think.
Yeah. This is a mess, because while I agree that there will definitely be some states that could be on par, or at the very least, and there are now actually, if you go district by district, you're going to have some phenomenal school districts. But then you're going to have ones like the one you mentioned in Baltimore, and even worse. And if you break it down on a state by state level, it's going to be even the same, right? Ones that are going to be good, and others that are going to be bad. And that's going to be good in some sense for the states, because that's going to create more checks and balances. All right, if we're really going to liberalize this education like this, do we risk losing percentages of our population, our tax base? Because people are going to leave behind this. You better believe it. There's going to be mass movements of population behind this. People are going to be leaving Texas, Florida, Oklahoma, Arizona, Tennessee, places like that, North Carolina, South Carolina, and they're going to be going to places like New York, Chicago, which, and if you look, I mean, at least they think they are, right? Until they're faced with the reality of the 10 cities that they're going to become. So it's going to be, it's an interesting state of affairs. How this is all going to play out, to be perfectly honest with you. I say, though, it's long overdue, and bravo. There's no good coming from it. I don't want to hear any of that mumbo jumbo about what about the jobs and this and that. Screw their jobs. We're talking about the souls of the future of this land, and for that matter, the soul of this land. Every one of those people can go and find another place of employment.
I think they'll do every bit as well. And what do you think about that, Governor? Do you agree? I think so. Ron, do you agree? I think so. Florida, Iowa. That's right. I really believe that. They'll be as good as any of them. And then you'll have some laggards, and we'll work with them.
Yeah.
And we can all tell you who the laggards will be right now, probably, but let's not get into that. But we'll work with them, and we're going to make them, they'll do a job. I think they'll do a job, and they'll go to sections of the state. For instance, New York, you'll have a Manhattan, and you'll have a Suffolk County, and you'll have a Nassau County, and you'll have Westchester County. You'll do 4 or 5 or 6 of them. You have upstate New York, and those counties, I think, are going to do very well. And I think ultimately Manhattan should do very well. But we'll break it down into sections, and I think it'll be really, really good. And they're going to be probably the tougher ones, but I think they have a chance to do really well. But we're going to be returning education very simply back to the states where it belongs. And this is a very popular thing to do, but much more importantly, it's a common sense thing to do. And it's going to work. Absolutely, it's going to work. And I can tell you from dealing with the governors and others in the state, they want it so badly. They want to take their children back and really teach their children individually. Probably.
Yeah, with the kind of staggering statistics that the man just uttered off, and the kind of money that is being poured into that organization, doesn't make any sense. You know, and I mean cents as in dollars and cents, and nor cents here. There's no sense anywhere. Absolutely zero.
The cost will be half, and the education will be maybe many, many times better. So we look forward to this. I want to just make one little personal statement. Teachers, to me, are among the most important people in this country, and we're going to take care of our teachers. And I don't care if they're in the union or not in the union. That doesn't matter. But we're going to take care of our teachers, and I believe the states will take actually better care of them than they are taken care of right now. And they'll work all sorts of systems and even merit systems. Those great teachers are going to be maybe a little bit better rewarded, and maybe that's the way it should be. But the states are going to make that decision. But we're going to love and cherish our teachers along with our children, and they're going to work with the parents, and they're going to work with everybody else, and it's going to be an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that all makes sense, right? He's saying all the good talking points. We're going to love and respect our teachers. We're going to love and respect our children and work with the parents. All of that makes sense. That's the way it should be. It's not the way it is. And by basically saying, well, we're going to cut this in biblical cord with all of this frivolous, unduly unnecessary funding. And as a result of that, states are going to be more in check and aware of how they step on and interfere with people's children.
It's really going to be something special. And Linda, you're presiding over something that's so important, and you're going to do a fantastic job, just like you have your whole life. I know your whole life. I've been watching you. I've been watching you for a long time. She's had nothing but success. So it's tremendous to have you, and hopefully you won't be there too long. But we're going to find something else for you, Linda. Okay.
Her job is to just close it out, and hopefully you won't be around too long doing it. So well said, well said. We'll leave that there, and we'll see what happens. All good things as far as I'm concerned. All good things.